Good morning and welcome to the Sports Debate Podcast. I'm your host, BA. Of course, we have Jack Hirsch and James JT Martin here. By the way, happy birthday again, James. I know you're going to get sick of that. Even though it's been past his birthday like 2 days, but who cares? Don't say it anyway. I hope you gentlemen are doing good this fine Saturday morning. We have, of course, a bunch of sports debate questions via Jack, who is always gracious in these. The first question of the day is, which NFL team will be the most impacted positively by its free agent acquisitions? Jack.
Man, this is like a coin flip. Can I defer winning the coin flip to James and go second? That, by the way, was one of my big beefs for years and years. I pride myself in being ahead of the times, and it never made sense to me, the NFL, all those years when a coach would win, a team would win a coin flip, they would always automatically take the ball, like to begin the game, meaning they kick off to start the second half. It never made any sense. Finally, they started to get it after decades and decades. And I understood it from the very start when I was a little kid, what made sense. And it took them that long. But with that said, okay, I guess I'm forced to go first over here. And I've heard this analyzed over and over, which team won the free agent bidding, more or less, who did best. And a number of teams did well. Hypothetically, you can say they all did well to a degree because they added on players. Of course, we neglect the players that teams lost. But, narrowing it all down, and I'm not going to name the teams that did well because several did do well. And realistically, this isn't clear cut. But there's one team that did better than the rest, that impacted themselves more than the rest, and no one's talking about it. And that's the Pittsburgh Steelers. Two major acquisitions, running back and wide receiver to get Rico Dowdle. What a pickup. And to make it even better, the new coach, Mike McCarthy, had Dowdle at Dallas when he broke through and finally showed he was a top-flight running back. And now he's going to be at Pittsburgh. He's going to be their number one option at running back, I'm sure, under Mike McCarthy. He gives Aaron Rodgers, who's going to come back to the Steelers as their quarterback despite all this drama. Let's not overanalyze. Oh, is Rodgers going to come back? Is he not going to come back? What's plan B? Are they going to go with Will Howard, Mason Rudolph? No, Rodgers will come back. He'll announce it at some point. It might be June 24th for all we know, but they'll be waiting with him with open arms. We should have learned that from last off season, the way they waited on Rodgers. So why on earth wouldn't they wait on him this time around? And they partly brought Mike McCarthy in because of the relationship of Rodgers, which is apparently not as strained as people made it out to be. And the Steelers, they also have a second elite wide receiver now, a Michael Pittman. How Indianapolis can let Pittman go, I don't get it. I know they wanted to re-sign Pierce because of all his potential, all his this, all his that. I'm not saying wasted, but they spent an inordinate amount of money on Daniel Jones, a proven loser at quarterback, a proven loser. Just look at his lifetime stats. He had a good half season, and that's basically it for his NFL career. He had an okay year with the Giants, and then come playoff time, the second playoff game against the Eagles, he was worse than inept in that game where they got eliminated, worse than inept. But Daniel Jones is the guy for the Colts to move forward with for one season at least, and see how he does in that one season. If he does well, give him a second season. If he does well, then move forward with him into the future. But my point is, you don't lose Michael Pittman because you're having cap difficulties, this and that. You win championships with elite players, with excellent second options. You need the second option. We've seen that over and over and over. And the Colts especially should have learned that when Jonathan Taylor, after having a sensational MVP type first half of the season carrying Daniel Jones, when Jonathan Taylor kind of hit a wall in part, injuries, this, that, the offensive line, variety of reasons, Daniel Jones started slowing down. So Daniel Jones is only going to do as well as Jonathan Taylor's doing, this season. But Michael Pittman, they let him go to the Steelers. Him and DK Metcalf, weapons for Rodgers. Dwaddle running the ball. That is impact. And their defense, which is good and didn't play up to expectations last year, can very well do it this year. Their defense might show up this year, the Steelers defense, and be one of the better ones in the NFL. And with those two additional weapons, Dwaddle and Pittman, they finally have an offense that could actually be a force and show that Rodgers isn't over the hill. He's still a good quarterback. He's still savvy. He can still throw the ball downfield well, but he needs weapons to do it. And they can't double team DK Metcalf now with Pittman on the field.
So I'm trying to analyze your pick in regards to the Pittsburgh Steelers and looking at them bringing in Michael Pittman Jr. and Rico Dowdle. Rico Dowdle is always the bridesmaid and never a bride. He's never a guy to stick around for the long term. He's that side piece that everybody's using up. And I just think that he gives you the short-term answer. He gives you a short-term. He's going to give you a big spurt of 200 yards in 2 games, and all of a sudden he just falls off a cliff. Where does he go? Like Carolina, I didn't see much of anything at the end of the season from him. And he had 2 major big games. Those 200 plus yards back to back, one against Dallas and one against I forgot whoever it was. But when he played the Saints, they weren't even the best defense. They shut him down. And I just think that he's a guy that's going to be moving pillar to post. He's going to be moving here and there. He's going to be a vagabond. He's going to find wherever he can for that brief moment. You get him for, like, they got him for, I think, for $12 million for 2 years. And so with that said, I think
about 12 and a half, but just let me point out to you, James, he was the second option at Carolina. He split the running back duties in the beginning, but they already had their primary running back. So he was kind of the second option there. That's why his numbers and his performance went down a little. It wasn't because of how he performed in the field. He was second option.
I disagree. I understand what you, Chuba Hubbard. He actually was taking Chuba Hubbard's position, and he let it go. He just fizzled. And that's kind of what he did in Dallas. I could see the same trend because I didn't understand why Dallas let him go at first. And then when he played in my division, so I got an opportunity to watch him more. He just I think he gets exhausted. I don't know what it is towards the end of the season. And you just don't see him play as well as he does in the beginning of the season. So the time will tell when we see him play for Pittsburgh. But my biggest gripe with you picking Pittsburgh is the quarterback, Aaron Rodgers. We don't know what he's going to do, and when he does, if and when he does come back, what is he going to do as a quarterback? I mean, he's got another weapon in Michael Pittman Jr., but they let Michael Pittman go for a reason out in Indianapolis. He hasn't been playing the best as well out there. Now, mind you, he was supposed to be the number 1 option there, and he pretty much the guy that's averaging 21 yards a clip in Alec Pierce took his position. He took his money as well. I mean, did they overpay for Alec Pierce Jr.? Probably, but you got to overpay to keep people. I think they kind of overpaid a little bit, but I mean, it's what it is. He's the number 1 guy now. Michael Pittman Jr. he's what he is. I mean, he's pretty much an average receiver. And you got him. I don't know how much they paid him there in Pittsburgh, but you got him, and he's your second guy.
came close to 20 million a year, but around in
That's
that
a lot
vicinity.
of money for Michael
Yeah.
Pittman Jr.
80 catches,
That's a-
80 catches last year, just to point out, your stat guy, and
Sure.
that's not a bad number.
No, it's not bad. It's not bad. It's just he's more of a possession guy. He probably get the first downs. DK is the guy that's going to take the top off the defense, but he's the number one guy there. But with that said, the team that I picked, and you're probably going to laugh at this, is my own New Orleans Saints. I picked the Saints, and I thought Travis Etienne now, not Etienne, it's Etienne. He is an underrated pick. He's a very underrated pick. The Saints run zone run, and he did excellent for Jacksonville there. And they're building their offensive line. They got the best, probably arguably the best guard in the free agency in David Edwards, and they picked him up immediately. So they plan to get him, and they brought him in, and he's gonna fit right well on the left side next to Kelvin Banks Jr. Probably the best rookie left tackle that played last year, through stats I'm speaking of, not just from observation, but definitely through stats. And also we got now our right tackle as well, in Talise Fuanga. And man, we added also a linebacker we took from our divisional foe in Caden Ellis, bringing him back. So you hurt your divisional foe by taking the player from them, and you're adding into your list. Now your team, the Jets, they got Demario Davis. You got a great leader there.
Veteran leadership there, the Saints lost.
You're going to need it. Yes, yeah, we lost a little bit of that, but Caden Ellis, he was under the tutelage and mentorship of Demario Davis. That's why he played well. That's why he was able to go off to Atlanta and have the green dot and be able to be a leader there in their defense and play well. So we got him back, but yes, so we did lose. He's not going to fully replace Demario Davis. I don't think that's hard to do because Demario is a Hall of Famer for all intents and purposes. So like I said, you got it. I mean, you can look at the numbers yourself.
Well, no. I'm saying if he's a Hall of Famer now, by the time he's finished with the Jets, his stock might drop. He might not be one anymore. The Russell Wilson.
That is hilarious.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be good for your defense. I think it's going to be really good for your defense, though. He's going to get people in line, and he's got a relationship with Aaron Glenn there. So
yeah, it'll help. He'll be good in the locker room. It might not mean much to you in the locker room, but it is important. He'll be good
for
there,
sure,
keeping guys in line. Yeah,
right. And I'm going to say, don't sneeze at his stats. He had the most tackles in his career last season at age 37. So so he still can get it. He's still a thumper. He can get left and right pretty quick. So you got somebody that's going to shore up that. But the Saints have improved. We got a punter as well.
Nothing splashy. That's like headline stuff. But yeah, they've improved. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go off the chart here. The Raiders having vastly improved during this free agency. I mean, vastly.
That was my next option.
Yeah. They signed Terrion Johnson. He's a pretty good slot corner. I'm not too sure about the Eric Stokes one. Eric Stokes is not a good corner, but whatever. They signed Tyler Linderbaum to help protect their quarterback.
Right.
The sneaky signing that they did was Jalen Naylor. I think Jalen Naylor is a very good wide receiver. He's played in my division for a while. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's really good. If he's given that chance, he could be the guy that makes a difference on that offense and spread them out a little bit. He's really good. They got Kwity Paye, Nakobe Dean. They practically just completely changed
Quay Walker.
Quay Walker. They completely changed their whole linebacking core.
Yeah.
They also got Malcolm Kuntz, and of course, if we're going to include kickers, they signed Matt Gay. So it's really, and they still got a couple of first round picks. So I mean, everything is kind of gelling to where they need to go. This is a really good. It was a really good offseason by the Raiders. I think that they are going to make some kind of an impact in their division. I don't know if they're not going to win a division. Obviously, there's better teams in that division at the moment. But like the Chargers basically doubled down on their offensive line. You see the offensive lineman they signed this season, dude. If somebody goes down, no worry, we'll just put this guy in here. We're gonna make sure we don't have none of that problem this year. They did a really good job of signing pretty good offensive linemen too, above average ones. The other sneaky team that got in there is Cleveland. They revamped their whole offensive line too. They probably got one of the better offensive lines in the league now because they made a lot of changes. They're gonna make sure that their quarterback is not sitting on the grass.
It'll be Deshaun Watson, their quarterback. He's going to
probably
mark my words on that. Yeah,
probably. I'm not saying that the team is going to be helping the Cleveland Browns in that division either, but at the same time, they have improved. That was a sneaky good team as well. Really, a couple of teams have been really brought to the forefront with their free agency. So, I mean, it'll be interesting to see this season how these working parts are.
we might all be a little bit off if you want to simplify things. The Vikings getting Kyler Murray, that in itself, that one move might turn out to have the greatest impact. If he has a great season, that could mean everything. That could offset all the other multiple moves that these teams have made.
Maybe. I gotta see proof in the quarterback thing right now with Minnesota. They have not made sound quarterback decisions in the past 3-4 years. So we'll see what happens. That's usually all you need for Minnesota. It's as simple as that. Minnesota could be the team that's 14-3 in that division, but they need a quarterback.
I wonder what Rick thinks about it. I wonder what Rick thinks about the move.
Hold me to this right now, and I'm telling you straight out. Kyler Murray is going to have a better season than Daniel Jones. Okay? You hold me to it right now. I'm saying it flat out because he's a better quarterback. Daniel Jones isn't bad. I guess he's okay. You can win with Daniel Jones, but Kyler Murray wins you games. There's a difference between the two. One guy, Daniel Jones, is going to have some really good games now in a while, and you're going to think, wow, what a good quarterback. And he's going to get you really excited. But Kyler Murray genuinely could be one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL if he finally puts it together. And I think this is the year he could put it all together.
I agree with that sentiment, but I have to disagree. I have to kind of push back in regards to comparing the two unfairly because Daniel Jones is still recovering from a major injury. So I don't know if he's going to be ready.
When he's ready and the injury is no longer a factor.
Yeah, Rick, I like that too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's a good signing for him. It's a smarter signing they've been doing I said, the past couple of years. I think the other thing you have to look at too is the weapons that both sides have. I think Minnesota has a lot better weapons than Indianapolis at this point. I think the only difference is that Indianapolis has the better running back. But Jack's gonna die on a hill with Daniel Jones. I swear he is. You do not like Daniel Jones. I don't know what it is.
Daniel Jones is okay. I think he gets overhyped like some other players. They have a really top-notch half a season, but there's a reason why. He had the blocking and he had the best running back in the NFL. That allowed him to do other things. Daniel Jones could show up once in a while and win you a game and be really sensational. I get that. And he did that the first half of the season, but people were going overboard and they were going crazy. You know who Daniel Jones is like? Jeremy Lin with the Nets. When Jeremy Lin was a sensation, people were going wild. They were asking who's better, him or Carmelo Anthony. That's what some of the Knicks fans were asking, and that was insane at the time. I said, are you out of your mind? But at that moment, Jeremy Lin was as good as Carmelo Anthony when he was lighting it up. But it wasn't going to last. Come on. One guy's the real thing, and the other guy isn't.
Well, I mean, for argument's sake, you can flip that on Kyler Murray too. Kyler Murray, yeah, he had an injury last year, but once his injury was over with and he could come back and play, did he? No. They let Brissett stay in there. It tells you a lot about a quarterback. Everybody was loathing Kyler Murray last year, but all of a sudden he's like the best pick that Minnesota can pick up.
His attitude
It's what have you done for me lately? That's what it is. It's like Daniel Jones. It's like you keep comparing Daniel Jones to the New York Daniel Jones, but when he's on Indianapolis, it's what have you done for me lately? He's done what he's supposed to do. He had an injury, and you can expose Indianapolis offense if your offensive line doesn't block well, and you can stop Jonathan Taylor, but that's usually a whole bunch. Anyway, the next question shall be: are the Baltimore Ravens going to be better off with Trey Hendrickson than they would have been with Max Crosby? Go ahead, James. This is yours.
I'm going to say absolutely not. I mean, this whole debacle with the so-called failed physical, I think is a big sham. I think they had buyer's remorse. I think they realized 2 first-round draft picks, and there's a guy out there that in Trey Hendrickson that's free, that you got to pay for him. But at the same time, you're gonna. I mean, 112. It looks worse than what it really is. They're paying a guy that's 31 years of age, going to be 32 at the end of this year, $112 million, but in reality, they're only paying him $60 million. That's $60 million in guarantees. So you got a guy that's a little older. He's more of a pass rush specialist. He's not a full guy. I mean, a full package guy like Max Crosby. I would say Max Crosby is a guy that's a wrecking ball. And I got stats to prove it, Jack. I know you're always ragging me about being a stats guy, but Max Crosby, for an edge, he has 78 total tackles last year. 78. Most edges don't even average 40 tackles in the season. Most guys are there like to do their job on, and he's more proactive. What I found out, he's more proactive in his approach, meaning he'll look at the offensive line, he'll look at the quarterback, and then he moves around. He figures the game out before the snap versus being reactive, which is most defensive linemen or defensive edges. And so his total stats, Max Crosby, were 45 solo tackles, 10 sacks, and 2 forced fumbles and 1 interception. Trey Hendrickson, he had 11 solo tackles, 4 sacks, and 1 forced fumble, no interceptions. So my thing is that I think, again, it was more so about buyer's remorse. Otherwise, they wouldn't have given up initially 2 first-round draft picks for the guy that they thought was their guy. And Max Crosby also is 28. He's going to be 29 in August. So he's a lot younger. That's a big thing. That's a huge thing. These guys are when you're looking at that type of position, it's drastic in regards to the age difference, and so and the amount of play. But again, somebody that can play that well against a run is incredible. I mean, when you're a pass rush specialist and you can tackle and you have instincts to be able to stop the run, that's what you're looking for. Again, like I said, this guy was a wrecking machine, a wrecking ball. Mind you, how bad the knee injury was, we can assume that it wasn't up to the standard for them. But again, I just, for me, I smell a rat in that situation, and I think that they just had buyer's remorse to get their draft picks back, and they don't have to give any up to get a guy that they can use on. And my thing is also, if you got somebody that can play that well on one side with Max Crosby, what's going to happen when you don't? They let somebody go. Draymond Jones went to the other side went to the Patriots. So now you got to figure out what you're going to do on the other side of Trey Hendrickson. And you know what Trey Hendrickson was by himself in Cincinnati. Imagine an older Trey Hendrickson by himself in Baltimore. What's going to happen? They got really good DTs, but they don't have another edge to set the other side. So for me, my answer would have been they would have been better off giving up those 2 first-round draft picks and keeping Max Crosby.
Well, the Ravens have a much better defense than the Cincinnati Bengals. I wouldn't do the comparison. The Bengals defense has been traditionally awful. That's been the weak link of the team. And Hendrickson was hurt last year. Keep that in mind. And that affected him. And he still saw the field and forced himself to go out there and maybe play at certain times when he shouldn't have been
I
playing.
got to cut you off 1 second, Jack. Max was hurt too, but he still played. He played through.
Well, he didn't play through. They shut him down at the end. They shut him down.
They shut him down at the end, but he was hurt before. He was playing games
you
hurt.
can't compare the injuries. You don't know the effect. Hendrickson didn't intentionally sit out. The times he didn't play, he just couldn't see the field. But in any event, if we're going to match up strictly Max Crosby and Trey Hendrickson, you have a good argument simply because Max Crosby's 3 years younger. And that means that's significant somewhat from age 28 to 31 when it comes to edge rushers, because they have to have that explosive first move, and you kind of lose it a little the older you get. But when you consider the draft picks, I mean, the Ravens are much better off. They have their 2 number ones in Trey Hendrickson. So now you mean to tell me if the Ravens had buyer's remorse over trading their 2 number ones for Max Crosby, are you going to tell me they have buyer's remorse not if keeping their 2 number ones and adding Trey Hendrickson? No, they're giddy about it. They're happy about it. We have 2 number ones back, and even if Trey Hendrickson isn't as good as Max Crosby, he's at least somewhat close to being as good as him, at least somewhat close. And we have our 2 number ones. The Ravens are much better off moving forward, having their 2 number ones and Trey Hendrickson, who can give them at least a couple of more good years. And unlike the Raiders, the Ravens are in a position to contend for Super Bowl right now. I'm not saying they're going to get there, but they're in that position. The Raven team right now is built to win. They didn't get it done last year. They were one of the great disappointments in the NFL. But this is a new season, and if Lamar Jackson stays healthy all year and brings the level of enthusiasm that we'd like to see, that he's shown in the past in a couple of MVP seasons in which he could have even won a 3rd MVP, the Ravens are going to be tough to deal with, and Trey Hendrickson's going to have enough help on the defensive side of the ball where he's going to be able to concentrate for the most part on what he does best, rushing the passer, not having to be concerned also with the running game. And yeah, so I'm going to sum up. Maybe Max Crosby is marginally better than Trey Hendrickson, but the Ravens having Trey Hendrickson instead, their 2 number ones, I think they're absolutely better off.
I'm going to say this and I'll let B go. To me, the Ravens making this move tells me that they're not contending for the Super Bowl championship. It tells me that they're not in a rebuild, but maybe a semi-rebuild where they got to change some things up. Because think about it. You got Derrick Henry. He had a good year last year. It wasn't as great as his first year with them, but he's still over 30. So you got to consider that he may be declining. Lamar Jackson is becoming maybe more injury prone. We're not sure how that's going. And Lamar Jackson's one of the best quarterbacks in the league. But that being said, you want those 1st round draft picks, like you said, to possibly shore up your defense, maybe shore up some youthfulness coming into your team. But that doesn't guarantee that going to the Super Bowl, or contending for one. To me, Max Crosby, had you added him on, they would have been better off, but they might not. They must think that they're not going to be there because you want to, because they're looking at maybe 2 or 3 years down the road, they're going to be rebuilding. They're going to be a full rebuild because everybody's aging. And you're losing a lot of players because their defense was terrible it wasn't good last year. It was okay. It started getting a little better at the end, but their run defense was okay. It was all right. They lost players from that defense, and so now you're trying to add something to show up again, a pass rush, but you're an aging team. So I just think that again, I thought Max Crosby was a loss for them. They would have been better off with him.
Well, I'm gonna have to disagree with both of y'all. I think Hendrickson is this dude is third since 2020 in sacks with 74.5. That's a stat that you can't deny. Max Crosby has 59.5 sacks in that same amount of time. Youth is
he's got 69. I looked that up too. It's 69.
69.
Yeah.
Anyway,
but
69.5.
His run defense is putrid for that same guy you're talking about. That run defense is terrible. So, and you need help in that regard. He's a specialist. I can tell you how many snaps that they have. One had over 5,000, almost 6,000 snaps, and the other had 3,000 snaps, because that tells you he's a situational player. Yes, you have 17 sacks in two seasons back to back, but what's the rest of your defense doing? I mean, what are you doing stopping the run? I mean, the run gap is probably horrible, and you got somebody like Max Crosby that he's got tackles for losses with running backs. So it's just, it's a complete game. I love the fact that he was a pass rush specialist. Trust me, we drafted Trey Hendrickson. There's nothing wrong with him as far as what his niche is. But as a complete player, man, come on. There's no comparison.
He's a defensive end. That's what his job is. I'm sick of that kind of stuff too, because they do the same thing to Aiden Hutchinson all the time, and you don't have to do that. Your job is to pressure the quarterback. That's what an edge does. That's what Trey Hendrickson is good at doing. If you got what Max Crosby has as a benefit, but his defense wasn't exactly the greatest either, and he was doing a lot of that stuff on his own. Just like Cincinnati didn't have anybody to help out Trey Hendrickson with that whole situation.
I'm going to have to disagree with you again, brother. I was in the military. You were in the military. We had specific jobs, but ultimately our biggest job was to defend, was to hold a gun and a rifle. I was a medic in the military. I still had to hold a rifle. So you still got to tackle. You still got to run defend. You cannot say that you can't. Your job is to be just the edge and sack quarterbacks. That's not. You got to tackle too. And if you can't do that, you're deficient in some way.
He's not deficient. I'm just telling you right now. That's the reason why he has market. I think the thing that messed up Hendrickson was his whole attitude near the end. The last year and a little bit the year before that, and the fact that he had a big price tag on him, because at the time he was a sought after commodity. Max Crosby wasn't, because Max Crosby was standing on his ground about, I'm not being traded because I'm a Raider. I'm a Raider for life. So nobody was paying too much attention to Max Crosby anymore. But I mean, you can't knock the guy. He's third in sacks since 2020. That's with Myles Garrett and TJ Watt. And Michael Parsons is behind him. Now, Michael Parsons, of course, I think he's one of the better edges. But at the same time, we're not talking about Michael Parsons, talking about Trey Hendrickson and Max Crosby. I like Max Crosby, but that injury is I think that injury is not as, I think it's worse than people are making it out to be, to tell you the truth. So I have to go with that. And Hendrickson is fine. He's fine now. He's good to go. But again, we'll see what happens. Max has got a full complement of people, like I said before, on his team now, that they went out there and basically bought them a whole defense. So he should be fine too. He might not have to be used as much. They can take pressure off his leg and use him for situational, things, because now they got a defense. They don't have to worry about depending on him to be the defense. So it works either way. Righty. Let's see what we got here. Okay. Next question. What record is more likely to be broken first? Wilt Chamberlain's 100-point game or a baseball player hitting 5 home runs in a game? Go ahead there, Jack.
Yeah, it's hard to believe a player has never hit 5 home runs in a game. I mean, they do it in batting practice. They hit one ball out after the other. And Wilt Chamberlain's 100-point game obviously came into the news again this week with Bam Adebayo scoring 83 points. Is 83 points close to 100 points? It's 83% there. That's a big 17% away. And Bam Adebayo's 83-point game came into a lot of controversy. Were they just feeding him the ball? Were they just gearing the offense around him? Well, who cares? And let me tell you something about the 5 home runs. Very silently, a couple of years ago, Aaron Judge came close, could have hit 5 home runs in a game, and no one talks about it. That game, Judge came up 5 times. He hit 3 home runs. His other 2 at-bats were a double off the wall. Okay, the ball drifted, went off the wall. In his last time at bat, the Yankees were so far ahead, he hit off a position player who just lobbed the ball into Aaron Judge, and Aaron Judge hit it to the warning track in left field. So if you think of those 2 at-bats to double off the wall in the batting practice pitcher, those could have been a couple of more homers. And that would have given them 5 on the game. I know how hard it is to hit 5 in a game. The record is 4, and it even hasn't been done that much at a time. But certain times a player gets in the zone, and it's a little harder to do it in this modern era because the extra inning games don't go on indefinitely. They kind of put a run on second base to shorten the extra inning games now. But it's hard to believe someone isn't going to hit 5 in a game, But as far as Wilt Chamberlain's 100-point game, Bam Adebayo shot less than 50%. I mean, what did he exactly shoot a stat? What? I mean, I forgot the exact number, but I think it was under 50%. I'm having a brain freeze.
You're right. As far as his the field percentage. Yeah. Field goal percentage. It was under 50%. It was. It was. He shot. Just so you know, he shot 20 of 43. 20 of 43.
So let's say Bam Adebayo did 28 out of 43. That would get him, and one of them was a 3-pointer. There's your 100 points right there. And that's excellent shooting, excellent, superb, but it's not outwardly 28 out of 43. It's great shooting. Don't get me wrong. You're shooting 68% or thereabouts. That's great. Super great. But it's extremely doable. Guys get in the zone. So if Adebayo had shot better, there's your 100 points right there. And I understand it's a team effort. One of these days, everyone is going to get together and feed a certain player the ball. If the Bulls wanted to do that with Michael Jordan in his prime, they pulled him aside. Michael, we want you to get 100 against the weakest team in the league. He would have made a run at it. Gotten 85 points or whatever, I got to believe. But with that said, I think the 5 home runs in the game fall first. I really do, because I think one player is just going to get in the zone. He's going to get up 6-7 times, and he'll just be in a zone like Reggie Jackson was in the World Series. He walked, then the other 3 times on the first pitch, he hit a home run every time. So I think a player would have to get up about 6 times or so, hit 5 out of 6. It's got to happen at some point. That it hasn't already, I'm astonished.
Fair to you, Jack. You're right. In regards to the baseball, I mean, guys are coming close. You mentioned Aaron Judge a couple of years ago, but there were 2 guys last year in 2025. Kyle Schwarber for the Phillies, he hit 4, and he came close to 5 against the Atlanta Braves, and also Nick Kurtz as well did it too for the Athletics. But that's 2 guys that hit 4. So I mean, it's not far off, but I mean, come on, man. I broke down Adebayo's numbers, and it wasn't a terrible game, but it wasn't great. It was. I think if you have a guy that has an elite shooting percentage, like let's just say SGA, he's a high percentage 2-pointer guy, and let's just say he has a game where he's lighting up threes, or a Luka Doncic, he has a game like that. Those guys have an opportunity to do it, but it would have to be a game where, like you said, the guys would have to feed them. Because there's never going to be a guy like Wilt Chamberlain to average 50 points in a game, to average 30 rebounds in a game. First of all, Wilt was 7 foot. He was a dominant force. He wasn't just a basketball player. He was a 7-foot athlete. I mean, he did the track. He excelled in track and field. The high jump and the shot put, and he also excelled in volleyball. So, I mean, that's kind of weird saying that, but yeah, he also excelled in volleyball too as well. But I mean, my man was 7 foot, so that you don't see many 7-footers that are dominant back then than you do in the 90s and the 2010s, or even now where guys like Wembanyama, I'm messing this man's name, Wemby. I'll just say Wemby. He can play all over the court at his height, which is incredible. But with that being said, Adebayo, he's a small center, but he shot 36. He made free throws. He went to the line 43 times. He made 36 free throws, which is an ungodly amount. But the shooting percentage wasn't all that great. He shot 7 of 20. He made 7 of 22 3-pointers. That's a terrible percentage in regards to 3-pointers. Excuse me. Wow. And also, like we mentioned, Jack, he's the only player of anybody that shot over 70 points. He's the only player to shoot under 50%. So if you got a guy that's going to make those shots, there's an opportunity. Like you said, he made 83 points. He's 17 points away from shooting 100. Had it been somebody like SGA or Luka Doncic, and it may happen. I think it may happen sooner than we think, because the way defense plays now, it's nowhere near what it was. So it's a great opportunity to be able to shoot 100 points now. But just the guy has to get fed the ball. And so just like they did with Adebayo, and I think it's probably going to happen now. Somebody's going to want to say, if Adebayo is that close, why can't I go ahead and do that one game? Especially like SGA.
I get the feeling if a guy is close, once he's over 80 points and there's time left on the clock, some of these defenses might tank it. The way Brett Favre tanked it with Michael Strahan, that sack should have been disallowed because that was a blatant dive. That's like throwing a game, throwing a record, what Favre did. But that's a discussion for another time, But sometimes we see the opposition cooperate, and I get the feeling they might cooperate with certain players. Like if it's a Steph Curry, for example, a well-liked player, they might step back and not guard him nearly as tight and allow him to keep taking 3-pointers with more of an open look than otherwise. That's what I think could happen in that case. But in baseball, would they groove a pitch for a 5th home run? I don't think so. I really don't. I don't think they'd ever groove it and let a guy hit a 5th home run unless it's a former teammate, someone who has a relationship, or the player's so well loved, like he's an iconic player. He's been in the league and they all admire him. So that element always comes into play with a record, because we saw it happen with Michael Strahan, who definitely shouldn't be the sack leader based on Brett Favre tanking it. And I think we all could agree, and not so much on what I said. You might disagree with that. That's fine. But we all agree that Brett Favre did tank it with Michael Strahan.
Kind of like Joe Burrow.
Joe Burrow might have. I'm not sure, but I'm willing. I have an open mind on that.
He basically did the same thing, though.
Not exactly. But Favre, it's clean cut. And even at the end of the play, you saw one of the Giant players patting Favre on the back, thanking him for what he did for Strahan. In Burrow's case, I don't like the look of that, but I'm not certain with Burrow and Myles Garrett. I kept watching a replay. I'm 50-50 whether or not Burrow tanked it or not. With Favre, 100%, he intentionally planned to tank it, and he did.
I think it was more about the fear factor between them two. Brett Favre wasn't really fearful of Michael Strahan like, today's quarterbacks are fearful of defensive ends getting loose and sandwiching them. I think Burrow was like, oh, damn. Here goes Myles. Who the hell did block Myles Garrett?
He fell down.
I'm going down. Yeah, I am not getting creamed by Myles Garrett.
Yeah.
So I think it was kind of a mixture. Fear and I'm giving up because I'm not getting hit by this man because he's coming out here to gun for me. I'm not doing it today.
That's why I'm not the
Today will not be
biggest
the
Michael Strahan fan. The guy, listen, nothing against Michael Strahan per se, but I'm not the biggest fan of him, personality-wise and all. He thinks there should be an asterisk next to Myles Garrett's record because he played an extra game. I understand that, but I want an asterisk next to Michael Strahan's record. It should say in little parentheses.
Yeah, he shouldn't mention anything about an asterisk about anyone's game,
That's
considering
what with him.
how he got. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, that being said, I'm picking Will Chamberlain to fall first before the 5 home runs. And just splitting hairs here. I think it's a slight edge. I just think there needs to be a better player, better shooting percentage to be able to do it. And I think it can happen if they fed him just like they fed Adebayo.
I think to Jack's point about the defense kind of being lackadaisical and letting the guy do things, I see that a lot. I see that a lot even when they don't have a guy that's getting to be 100. Sometimes these defenses just say, you know what, we lost this game anyway, forget it. But the superlatives that are going on in baseball is that you have different pitchers you have to face. So if somebody's is teeing off on one pitcher, they're going to replace that pitcher with another one. And believe me, I think the competitive edge in baseball may not just be the final count in the final score, but the fact that if this guy is trying to go for 5 home runs, oh, you're not getting it off me, buddy. Yeah, I'm not going to go in the record books as the pitcher that gave up the 5th home run. That ain't going to happen. And I think that's the more competitive advantage that pitchers have, or the reason why it's going to be harder for somebody to hit 5 home runs than somebody getting 100 points in the NBA, because I can see it. I mean, look how many times has been done, almost been done in this century alone. So, if it happens, I think it'll be NBA. Anyway, on to the next one. Which broadcaster is more valuable to ESPN, Pat McAfee or Stephen A. Smith? Oh, this ought to be good. Go ahead, James.
Well, we flip the coin. Let me defer to Jack, as he likes to call me Stephen A. from time to time.
No, wait, you're deferring to me, but you got the pick to defer to you. I don't care, actually. I mean, I like Stephen A. Smith. I'm friends with Max Kellerman, but I've always liked Stephen A. Smith. I understand Stephen A. Smith. He felt the need to move on from Max. Stephen A's lost his mojo in First Take. They have a whole bunch of people working with him, and he's not the dominant personality there. He's like the quarterback we refer to as a game manager now, not a guy who goes out and wins the game. He still has a big personality, but on Pat McAfee's show, he's the guy. He has all these other workers, okay? Let's put it that way. I'm looking at the best term to give him, surrounding him, but who even remembers their name? He's the guy, and he gets great guests. He gets better guests than Stephen A. Smith gets. And listen, Stephen A. Smith is still a big personality, but in all honesty, if we can watch one show or the other, I think, and I don't know what the ratings are, I like Pat McAfee's show better now because Stephen A. Smith beats a topic to death. They go on and on and on. You think we're bad guys sometimes? I mean, they're terrible. The Kyler Murray thing, how that's going to benefit the Vikings. They're going on for about 15 minutes, and I'm changing the channel. And then I come back 5 minutes later, they're still talking about it. I mean, they're beating it to death. Stephen A. would have been best off had he been with, Shannon Sharp, the two of them going at it. Max Kellerman, but he didn't feel comfortable around Max, so be it. Skip Bayless, who I can't stand, but at least it's 1-to-1. You need your personality to shine. Stephen A. has lost his way on First Take. I know he's on social media, he's on the news, but for ESPN itself, the Pat McAfee show is more valuable than First Take right now. It just is. It's a better show, better guests. It's more respected. I mean, and it's more focused. Stephen A. Smith, he's lost his way with First Take. I hate to say it. He's lost his way. And I like Stephen A. Smith. I think he's a fantastic personality, and I think he's a man of integrity. I have nothing but good things to say about the brother. Nothing but good things. I sound like Stephen A. Oh, the brother's wonderful. This. Everyone's a brother to him. Everyone's a brother. I mean, come on, Stephen A. But that's his personality. Despite his troubles with Max, I think Stephen A. is a good guy. Pat McAfee, I'm not as sure about, personality-wise, but I like the show better now, and it didn't start out that way. I always liked to listen to Stephen A. first. Now I'd like to listen to Stephen A. second behind Pat McAfee. I'm getting a little tired of Stephen A. Smith. He's like this hit TV show that after you watch it a few seasons, it's not must-view watching anymore.
As you well know, Jack, I am a numbers guy, so I had to look up the numbers. Because I don't watch First Take, first of all, I got to work in the morning, but I try to go home and watch shows like Pat McAfee, like certain takes, certain like videos or hot topics or whatever it may be. When I looked up the numbers, and I was surprised to see that First Take is still the number one show. It's still the number one show. Pat McAfee, the Pat McAfee show pulls up about 418,000 viewers a morning, but First Take has 578 or something like that, or some odd
number. Is it the time
crazy.
Slot, James? Tell me, is it the time slot that might make a difference? I'm not sure.
It could. It's in the morning though. You got to think most people are watching in the morning. Like, wow, that's a lot of people watching in the morning. You consider most people should be at work, but people are still trying to figure out a way to watch the show. And that's what I'm like, okay, so to me, something's telling me that people still want to see Stephen A. He's drawing something. And there's a reason he's probably the highest paid guy in the organization. I get what you're saying. I sometimes he can do things ad nauseum. It's just too much. And he could be a bit outrageous and outlandish with some. But at the end of the day, when I listen to some of his takes, at the end, when his message comes through, he hits points. And so it's like, okay, I hear what you're saying. It can be annoying, but when he finally gets to the point, you're like, okay, I can see where he's coming from. Most times I agree with him. And with that being said, Pat McAfee and Stephen A. Smith on their own. Look, we talk about social media. Stephen A. Smith, he might have a whole team with him on First Take, but he's by himself in social media, his own self. Not Pat McAfee. He's got a whole team on social media, and they got on YouTube. They have about 2.98 million viewers or subscribers. Stephen A's got about 1.9. But again, he's by himself, and he has interviews with a lot of big people as well on his own deal. I know he missed out on LeBron James. Pat McAfee had LeBron James on his show. He also had who else? Pat McAfee had that. Aaron Rodgers. He gets Aaron Rodgers all the time. But I look at this point in LeBron James and Aaron Rodgers' career, they're on the downturn, almost retirement age. So it's not saying much that you got those guys on on your show. It's just that they're probably people want to hear what they're going to say because they rarely do interviews, and so I just think still for ESPN right now, if I had to talk about them now, is still the most valuable guy is Stephen A. Smith. But I'm not going to deter and say that I'm not going to knock the Pat McAfee show because they look to be the future at some point. Because at the same time, they're getting a billion views on social media per month. Pat McAfee, that's a lot. That's a crap ton. I mean, it's just like little, because the way kids think, everybody thinks now is little short videos, little short, and that's what it is showing. It's like little clips that are driven by just hot takes and stuff like that. So that's the future. But for right now, it's Stephen A. Smith.
Yeah, I'd agree with both of you actually. Although I'm not a big Pat McAfee fan. Okay. Especially when he's hanging off the strings of Aaron Rodgers half the damn time. I don't like that whole situation. It's, dude, come on. And to the point, Stephen A. Smith has some of his. He likes to jump ship, jump back on, jump back off, jump back on, jump. In a matter of 24 hours, he'll do this. So but that's for clicks and likes. And you're right. Social media, like during the football season, he'll post stuff like he'll be in his home and he'll be watching a Cowboy game, and the Cowboys will lose. And the first thing that I see on my feed is him going, laughing at the thing, but how about them Cowboys? That stuff. So it tells you that he has some type of following that is a little bit more. And you're right too, James, because he is the current. Pat McAfee is the future. So I can see that too. But so far, Grandpa is the guy on ESPN right now. Stephen A. Smith is the guy. If they lost him, I don't think there's enough Pat McAfee could do to. I mean, ESPN's ESPN. Let's face it. They probably could do good without either one of them. But at the same time, I think viewership would go down on ESPN if Stephen A. Smith, left that program.
And also, let me put this little feed in. There's potential that that Shannon Sharpe might be coming back to First Take. So that's out there.
With Stephen A., but Stephen A. should work directly with someone. A whole big panel where he's limited in what he has to say. That's what I mean, that he's kind of lost his way. Him and Shannon butting heads together, debating back and forth. The show would be better off. Less would be more with Stephen A., but he's kind of spreading the ball out a little too much. You need him to score. I mean, but Stephen A. tries to make nice plays in all ways. If he had to evaluate our show now and he had to take my side, he'd say about you, James, I have nothing but love for the brother James. Everything he's done for the community, for blah, 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 blah. Come on. I mean, he overdoes those niceties at times. But
he does it, and then he sets you up for the right hook he's going to give you afterwards.
Yeah, exactly.
And on that note, ladies and gentlemen, watching the show, we are going to end our day with that. And everybody have a great rest of your day. We'll see you tomorrow at 8 on the Big Sports Show Sunday. And have a good one.